Welcome back, everyone, to First Novel Problems. I'm your host, Abby Matthews. I am joined today by my lovely friend.
I am Brooke Tannehill. Glad to be here.
Are you, though?
No, but it's okay. We are going to get through this. Absolutely.
I know I asked you to do something that's really, really hard, but let's be honest, writing a book is really, really hard. So, this is just par for the course. Because today we're talking about jacket copy, but before we jump into the jacket copy part, you have a reveal because we ended the last episode. You were supposed to be coming up with a working title, and you did come up with a whole list, and you shared it with me. You shared it with Hay, and without knowing your favorite choice or each other's, we all three picked the same one.
We did, which I thought was actually kind of telling. So it was pretty nice that you and Hank, even separately, because you guys didn't know what you guys had said before. And you guys both arrived at the same conclusion.
Am I misremembering this? Am I making this up? Did you also show your husband and he liked the same one that we liked?
I did. I showed him and I showed my daughter.
And everybody came to the same conclusion, or was there an outlier?
No, everybody came to the same conclusion. Paige, which is the name of my daughter's name, she came up with some like Gen Z stuff, but we're just gonna ignore it and not act like that didn't happen. But she did like this one. But yes. Would you like me to say what it is?
I would.
Okay. So the title that we have come up with is The Thing She Never Told Me. That is the title that we have arrived on. And through going through and doing research, I discovered that not only am I doing women's fiction, but because of the comps, which we talked about doing before and everything that I wanted to do, this is actually landing in contemporary women's fiction, which is crazy because I started this whole process almost at historical fiction / historical romance. And now we're just like at the complete opposite end of the pendulum. And now we're in contemporary women's fiction. So
you figured all this out before you spent a ton of time writing something that you would end up getting stuck in. So I actually think this has been really helpful because you're narrowing down what it is you want to write before you've even written the first word.
Right. Yeah. And I think even some of the stuff that we're seeing, because like we've been sharing some of this process and some questions and stuff in our social channels. And it's funny to even hear from other writers and the Dabble community that they've dealt with exactly what you're talking about. Like they thought they started in one genre. Then they're just like, why am I stuck? Why can I not get to this next space? And it's because they were trying to be something that they were not ultimately with this story, or the story was, they were trying to make the story something it was not.
Yeah.
And so by doing this exercise, it was very helpful. So.
Well, I'm really glad you did it. I love the title that you landed on. And so now we're going to move into the next sort of phase of pre-writing, which is the jacket copy. And I know everyone's got to think I'm nuts because you're like, I haven't even written the book yet. Why am I writing the part that goes on the back, the marketing copy that sells the book? Why are you asking me to do that right now, Abby Matthews? And it's because it's going to help pull your book and your idea into, I'm going to say almost like a cheat sheet, right? That's going to keep you focused on this book as you write it, because the jacket copy is essentially the promise that you're making to the reader.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you supposed to write something if you don't even know what you're promising them in the first place? So we are going to work on the promise that you are making to the reader. Now, caveat, if you are writing for yourself, if you don't care if you ever sell a copy of this book, if that is not what you're in it for, and you want to skip this part, go right ahead. Like, I have no problem. You can skip this part anyway. I get it. Everybody do your own thing. But except you, Brooke, you have to do this because I'm the boss of you
You're
on
the
this
one.
show. So,
Right.
but for everyone else, if you want to sell your book to someone, right? You've got to find your right readers, and we're going to talk about that here in the next couple of episodes as well. Like, who are you writing this book for? It's important to know that going in. That's going to help guide your decisions as well. But you also have to know what you're promising them. And
Mhm.
so that's what this is. Now, just like the working title, this is a working jacket copy. This may not be what ultimately ends up on the back of your book, and that's fine. Right now, you are writing it for you, okay? For no one but you and the promise that you are making to your future readers. So, here are the couple of things you have to think about when writing jacket copy, okay? Usually books start with a bit of a hook, right? Which is this like snappy sentence that basically sets up what the premise of the book is. I'm going to show you a couple of these snappy sentences. I literally just grabbed a handful of books off of my shelf, and I am going to warn you guys, I read wildly different books than I think Brooke reads. But there are some really good snappy sentences in here. So the first one I want to share with you is this one is Starter Villain. I loved this book. Okay. And it says, this is what hooked me, besides the cat wearing the suit on the front of the book. Okay. Which, how do you say no to this with a
Right.
name like Starter Villain? Inheriting your uncle's supervillain business is more complicated than you might think, particularly when you discover who's running the place. All right. So that's the snazzy little hook that John Scalazzi, I never say his name right, but he hooked me with that sentence. Inheriting your uncle's villain business is more complicated than you may think. So that's one. Okay. All right. Hot Dog Girl. All right. YA rom-com. Everyone falls for the princess. No one ever falls for the hot dog girl. Now, both of these, of course, combined with the cover and that snazzy little hook, you sort of get a feel for what the reader is going for, or what the reader is in for, rather. All right,
Mhm.
so Dating and Dragons, another YA rom-com. This one's super simple. Live streaming love. So,
Interesting.
all right, so that's, I mean, it's not particularly hooky, but once you start to read the copy, you understand more where it comes from. So this doesn't really have a real hooky sentence, but I really like the back jacket copy of this. So we're going to put Unwrap My Heart on hold for a second. But I do want to talk about this jacket copy as well. It leads, instead of with a snazzy hook, it leads with a fake blurb from King Tut, the most realistic love story I've ever read. So that right there kind of tells you enough about, what it is that's happening. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing you usually start with, is some sort of hooky little sentence. Now, I'm not going to lie, in my jacket copy, I sort of skipped that. I put my hooky little sentence at the end, but I'm going to be mulling over that as I read, or as I write rather, my own book. Okay. So I don't know if you kind of have a hook in mind, but that's the first part of your jacket copy. So the
Okay.
second thing is you have to put a little bit about who your main character is, right? That's generally the easy part. And kind of, where are they starting the book? Like, what are they like at the beginning of the book, so that your reader understands the beginning trajectory of what it is that they're going to read. All right. And next, you got to know a little bit about the conflict and a little bit about the stakes, but you don't have to give away everything. So that's the deal with this. You're not giving away your plot twists. You're not giving away the ending. As a matter of fact, you're not even telling most of what happens in the book. All right.
Okay.
You're just setting up your main character, the stakes, and the conflict. So, with that in mind, let's look at supervillain or starter villain, rather. So, Charlie's life is going nowhere fast. A divorced substitute teacher living with his cat in a house his siblings want to sell. All he wants is to open a pub downtown if only the bank will approve his loan. All right. So, see what I mean by who the main character is and what they're like at the beginning of the book? All that is right there in 2 sentences.
Mhm.
Okay. So, let's look at Hot Dog Girl. And Blue Parker is determined to have the absolute best, most impossibly epic summer of her life. There are just a few things standing in her way. All right. So I'm going to pause there. All right. You know, this is a YA rom-com. You're looking at the front of it. You know, she's determined to have the absolute best, most impossibly epic summer of her life, but we can guess where she's going with this, right? She's probably going to work at a
Carnival.
carnival, yeah,
Mhm.
and she gets stuck being a hot dog girl. Okay, so there's that one. All right. Live streaming love. Quinn Norton is starting over at a new high school and hopes that joining a D&D game will be the trick to making friends. The plan sounds even better when she's invited into a group that includes Logan Weber, the cute and charming guy she met on her first day of class. So right there, you can tell in the very first sentence or two, right, who she is. This is a new girl trope, right? Usually have me in a new girl trope. That's one of the tropes I really like. And that she's starting a new school and she's friendless. She wants to make friends. All right. And what got that? Last one. Sophia's just a normal high school girl worried about getting her homework done and looking cool when he shows up. A devastatingly handsome new kid mysteriously covered in decaying bandages and staring at her from the empty holes where his eyes should be. Unwrap my heart. All right. So you get the setup.
Yes.
And you get that it doesn't have to be long. People were
Yes.
talking 2 sentences. Okay. No
Mhm.
pressure. All right. So next, what's the conflict? What's at stake? So let's look at, we don't have to read all of these. Let's look at as I drop everything. Starter villain and hot dog girl. All right. So starter villain, talking about Charlie again. His long lost uncle Jake dies and leaves his supervillain business, complete with island volcano lair, to Charlie. But becoming a supervillain isn't all giant laser death rays and lava pits. Jake had enemies, and now they're coming after Charlie, right? So we kind of get the stakes, obviously. Probably going to be at stake, right? His uncle might have been a stand-up, old-fashioned kind of villain, but these are the real thing, rich, soulless predators backed by multinational corporations and venture capital. It's up to Charlie to win the war. His uncle started against a league of supervillains, but with unionized dolphins, hyper-intelligent talking spy cats, and a terrifying henchperson at his side, going bad is starting to look pretty good. In a dog-eat-dog world, be a cat.
That's pretty cute.
All
That's
right?
really, yeah.
So you kind of get, it's not telling you a ding-dong thing, but yet it's telling you everything you need to know, right?
Right.
So it's this guy who inherits a supervillain empire from his now dead uncle, right? And he's just a normal guy, and he's stepping into this weird world that has unionized dolphins and talking spy cats, and he's got to play the game, right, to keep control and not lose his life to these evil supervillains. I mean, that's pretty stinking awesome. By the way, narrated by Will Wheaton. So
I don't know who that is.
that's right. You're not a fantasy girl. Fantasy and sci-fi. All right.
Sorry.
We'll get into Will Wheaton talk later, but you understand where we're going with this. Let's just kind of look at this one. I want to bring this one up because it does bullet out a bit
Mhm.
more about what happens in the story. So just to kind of give you an idea, right? So we've got Lou Parker, just a few things standing in her way. So this is the conflict. One, she's landed a job at Magic Castle Playland as a giant dancing hot dog. Okay. Her crush, the dreamy diving pirate Nick, already has a girlfriend who is literally the princess of the park. But Lou's never liked anyone, guy or otherwise, this much before, and now she wants a chance at her own happily ever after. Her best friend Celie, the carousel operator, has always been up for anything, but she's decidedly not on board when it comes to Lou's quest to set her up with the perfect girl or Lou's scheme to get close to Nick. So, best friend is standing in the way, part of the conflict. And it turns out that this will be their last summer of Magic Castle Playland ever, unless she can find a way to stop it from closing. Right? So, there's another big piece of the conflict. So, hot dog girl. Will she get the boy? Will she keep the theme park open? You got to read to find out. And that's the idea. You got to read to find out. Okay. So, what does this look like? Those are great examples, but they're also working from finished books.
Yes.
Okay. So, always easier to figure it out when you know what you're working with. How do you do this when you haven't written the book yet? All right. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you what mine looks like. It's not as polished and pretty as all of this, by the way. And I've not ever had an editor look at it. And I don't care to have an editor look at it because this is just for me as I write the book. So here is my Dabble project. My story is called Eleanor Mayfield Did Not Audition for This. You can see I'm already 33,000 words into this book, right? But I've had this note card pinned since day one. All right. So here's what mine said. Eleanor Mayfield did not audition for this. Eleanor is 17 and she moves from LA to South Carolina to live with Grandma May when her mom, a wannabe actress, finally lands a starring role in a super cringy reality TV show. Eleanor wants nothing to do with it. Unfortunately for Eleanor, no one in South Carolina gets the memo that she's not interested in following in her mom's footsteps. Through a series of, in my humble opinion, hilarious and unfortunate events, she ends up starring in the school play and falling for the boy next door, who happens to run tech for the drama club. But she can't escape the drama when mom shows up for opening night, camera crew in tow. Spoiler, there is a sword fight. So, that is mine.
Hey, Abby, did you just show something
I did. Did it not show?
that's new?
I did share Dabble 3.0.
Yes, I love that it's pink. So
Mine is
I love it.
because I'm writing a rom-com. So, of course, I would pick pink, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, I mean, look at all the pink in my office. Anyway, I love pink. So,
Pink's awesome.
That's
It's
me.
the main character vibe. So.
Side note, what color is yours?
I am bounced. It's pink. I was trying to be interesting, but it's pink. It's totally pink. So it has to be pink.
We're club pink. I like it. So,
Yeah, and it's not dark mode pink. It's light pink. It has to be.
nice. The only way. Dark
Mhm.
mode, that's for those sci-fi and horror writers. I say let's leave it for them. We'll leave the good stuff to us.
Exactly.
So do you kind of understand what it is you want to do? How far you have to go with this?
Yes, you need to really identify. Like, I feel like if I bucket it into like the specific components, you have to have an idea of your premise first off. Like, that's definitely something that you have to do. You have to have, it always starts with a hook.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes into, you have to have an idea about who the character is and where they are at the starting of the book.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand what's at stake. So what are their driving forces? And then also understand what their conflict is. without giving it all away.
Right. Unless you're like me and you want to end with spoiler alert and there's a sword fight. But that actually plays into the one last piece that we have not really talked about, but I think is super important, and that's voice.
Okay.
So now, if you think about all of these examples that I have read to you, they all have something in common, do they not? And that's they're pretty
You
funny.
read 'em.
I've read them, yes, there's that. But hey, smarty pants, they're all funny, right? And I added that last line into mine because mine is a rom-com. Hopefully it's funny. I mean, I think it's at least somewhat funny. It might not be quite starter villain funny, right? But it's pretty funny. And I give a hint of that with that last line. Okay. So same thing for you. Same thing for anyone who's writing jacket copy. You kind of want to nail the voice, right?
Mhm.
Because if your jacket copy is funny, but your book is not, and a reader picks it up expecting that your book will be funny, and it is not, do you think they're going to keep turning pages?
No.
So that, my friend, is the secret sauce, though, with your jacket copy, is try and write it in the same voice that you think you'll be using for the book.
And I also think that like you need to consider if the voice matches the genre too, right? Because
Right.
if it's historical, gruesome fiction, you don't want funny jokes on back of it. So,
No, but, not to say that if you're writing women's fiction and there's a humorous element to it, you can't work that into your back copy.
exactly.
But if you are writing a book with very flowery language, say, I would lean into using some of that flowery language on the back of the book. If you're writing something that you want that to feel dark and mysterious, right? I would try and work some of that into your jacket copy. This is a great place for you to practice that voice. Now, again, caveat, this is for you. This might not be what ends up on the back of your book, but as a first-time writer, this is a great place for in 2 paragraphs, you can explore a voice that you might want to use more as you write forward in the story.
Okay.
So write it once. If it doesn't feel right, write it again and pretend like you're a different narrator in your head. So that's kind of the trick for a voice. So if you are writing, are you going to be writing, you think, in first person?
Probably.
So if you're writing in first person, I would suggest that you try and put yourself in the shoes of your main character when you write these few paragraphs. You might not write it and say I, right? Because this is kind of like a resume. So you're going to be writing in third person, but put yourself in your main character's shoes and explore how you think they might describe the situation.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And next time, will you be brave and share it with us?
I guess so. I think that's the part of this whole thing. But yes, I will share it with you guys
Okay.
for sure.
You can do it. I read my crappy one to everyone this time. And so I erased the crappiness. But again, it's for me. I put it on a card that is literally there on my screen as I write to remind me what it is I'm promising my reader. So,
Okay.
all right, everybody. Get your marching orders, friend.
I'll get it done.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. We're going to end here so I can school Brooke on Will Wheaton privately without having to bore everyone. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on First Novel
Bye.
Problems.